This week's portion, VaYeshev, begins the final leg of the narrative in the book of Breshit, the book of Genesis, this time from chapter 37, the beginning of this week's portion, to the end of chapter 50. We focus on Joseph and his family. As a good story is written, we find the plot twists to be many and varied throughout this story. And every little thing that happens affects every other thing that happens in the story. And they all raise psychological and religious questions for us because aside from it being great literature in which we can focus on the psychology of the characters in the story, this is a great religious story. And we have to understand as well the messages that we are supposed to learn. What is the Torah trying to teach us by presenting such a story about the first Jewish family? And so one of the plot twists is near the beginning of this week's portion. Joseph shares a couple of dreams that he has, which reflects his egocentricity. They focus on how sheaves of grain bow down to one sheaf of grain, how the stars and the sun and the moon bow down to one star in the sky. Obviously, Joseph understands that this is his family bowing down to him, and his brothers and his father are incensed that Joseph would have such a dream and would even dare to share such a dream. He raises the anger of his siblings to the point where the siblings can't stand being around him. And then the very next thing in the portion is that we're told that the brothers are off taking care of the family flock, and Jacob asks Joseph to go after them and bring them home. Now, why would Jacob do such a thing? Why would Jacob, knowing that Joseph is hated by his brothers, send him away from the protection of the home into a trap, seemingly a trap? Why would Jacob do that? Is Jacob himself angry at Joseph, wanting to teach him a lesson about how to get along with his brothers? Is Joseph ready to deal with the ire of his brothers against him? What are the brothers going to do? And so that's what all these questions and more we are supposed to ask ourselves. And the only thing that the rabbis comment on in the traditional commentaries is the fact that when Jacob asks Joseph to do this, Joseph says simply, Hineni. And this is a word that means here I am, but it's a word that we know from Abraham throughout his dialogues with God in his life. He always said, Hineni, I am ready to accept this mission. And so that's what the rabbis say, that Joseph, knowing that he has placed himself in jeopardy in relationship to his brothers, still says, Hineni, I am ready to accept whatever is going to happen to me. What are we supposed to learn from this family story? It is quite intricate, quite filled with a lot of emotion, and a lesson to us all about how sometimes we succumb to our emotions instead of rising above them and acting always in a good and proper way. Even our ancestors acted humanly and not religiously, but they still became religious figures. So too can we. Shabbat Shalom.